Hello, hello, hello. It's Lisa Copeland, and I'm so excited. I've been promoting this event for a couple of days now, but I have got the New York Times best-selling author, my very dear friend, Sharon Lechter, and I cannot wait to talk about her new book, How Money Works for Women. Okay, Sharon, I've got 4 million questions. So let's just dive in because there's just so much good stuff here. But why is money for women? Like I sat and made a list of what I was going to ask you, but I'm like, I know people are asking this. And go ahead and put your questions in the comments and tell us where you're at and where you're from. But why is money different for women than it is for men? It's money. I don't get it.
The biggest thing is that we tend to still kind of ignore the money and give up the responsibility for money to our spouses. And we put our head in the sand, and it's something that is just horrible. I mean, we have in this book, we talk about women from every decade of life, from 19 to 86. And two of the particular issues that are important is a woman that's been married 30 years and her spouse dies, and she has no credit of her own because everything was joint, everything was in his name.
Right.
And all of a sudden, she's in her 60s, late 60s, and she can't get credit cards. She can't get any credit because she didn't establish anything in her own name. And I see it happening all the time.
You're right.
The alternative to that is you've been married 25 years and you think your future together is going to be perfect. And then he decides he wants a divorce, and you're left with no credit, no life, and a broken heart. And so it's really important for women to understand that even if you're married forever, you still need to have your own credit because you have your own credit score. And if you ignore it, it's going to hurt you later on.
Oh my God, this is so good. If we're going to give people a couple minutes to start tuning in or starting to come up now. This is something that is worthy of sharing out, ladies and gentlemen. If you've got a sister, a mother, a daughter, a coworker, whatever that is, tag her in it. Guys, listen up, because I think, don't you agree, Sharon, that men have equal responsibility as the head of the household? They've got equal responsibility to make sure that they leave their wives in a good position by putting her name on debt, getting debt in her name, having credit cards, putting the name on the mortgage, the name on the car payments, all of that.
It's so important. And I've had guys call and order several books for their daughters, for their sisters, nieces, because they understand the importance of it. And a dear friend of mine sent it to her daughter, and her daughter's response, "Oh, it's so easy to read." And I go, "Yes, it is."
God, okay. Can we talk about that? Every book, and I was going to pull out all your other books, but every book you have written has been, and every other book I've ever read especially about finance. Finance is not sexy. I know assets are sexy, but talking about money and how money works is not sexy. But this book is sexy. If you guys could see, look at the beautiful, the colors. It's silky. It's glossy paper. It's beautiful. Here's a story about Zoe, and it kind of takes you through Zoe's. I'll get this to the camera. Zoe's path. This is easy to read. It's easy to digest. Why did you differ from your normal 50 million books that you've sold? Why did you go to this? What inspired you?
Well, for exactly that reason. I wanted it not to be intimidating. I wanted it to be fun, interesting, dynamic, because money tends to intimidate people. And if it's just a normal book, it's like, oh my God, I don't want to read this.
Another book.
Yeah. And so this is something that's different. It's fun. And you can relate to it because you can remember if you're my age, I'm going to turn 70 in January. I still remember each stage of my life. And we talk about things like having a special needs child, like starting a business, looking for how to pay for a wedding, how to pay for college, whether it's you or your children going through that. There's so many things in here that are applicable to individual or to all of our lives.
I know. I was reading the part about saving for a wedding, and we're having a big wedding a year from now, and the parents are covering this much, but there's a gap, right? And so, and I think it said, in this particular instance, she was going to save $712 a month so that they did not incur debt when that big day comes, right? It's fun to celebrate. It's fun to do all of that, but it's not fun to pay the bill. It's like having a bad hangover. That's how I equate it. You throw the party.
It's like creating a mortgage for your future life without an asset attached to it. So
okay, so take us back a little bit for the one person on planet Earth who may not know you. And by the way, I've got the link. Some of you I know will be tuning in later. I've got the link in the comments for you to copy and paste and to get this book. I mean, you can buy a box of 20 of them. And that's what I recommend you doing because, you know, especially as women, we should be giving this out as party favors, as gifts. Like, you know,
book club. Perfect.
Yeah, ready for the book club, all of the above. But take us
order it through that link, I'll sign them. So just put it.
Wow, that's a look. Oh, hold on. Mine was signed. That's why I cherish it. But take us back to the Rich Dad. Like what, you know, tell us a little bit about your backstory. Like you have written, you know, you were the co-founder of the Rich Dad Empire, Rich Dad Poor Dad Empire, Exit Rich, Think and Grow Rich for Women, Outwitting the Devil, 3 Feet from Gold. I know I'm leaving some out. But, you know, so everything you have done has been about, you know, empowering people. But so much of it's around money. So tell us why money? Why is that such a hot button to you?
Well, I was raised in a house where we talked about money. And so I understood assets, cash flow, depreciation. And I didn't realize until I got into the real world that very few people know anything about money. And so I started really paying attention to how businesses succeeded and probably more importantly, how they didn't. And then the number of people that were struggling financially because we're taught to exchange time for money, right? And the problem is there's only so many hours in the day, and that's not going to make you wealthy. Very, very seldom will it make you wealthy. So what I really wanted to help people find the tools, those 1 or 2 things they can do to make their financial situation better. But it was when our oldest son went off to college in 1992 and he got into credit card debt. We didn't even know he had a credit card. I was mad at him, but I was more mad at myself. And so that was December of 92. And that's when I dedicated the rest of my life to financial literacy, financial education. It's criminal that we're not teaching kids about money in school.
Well, tell us about what you're doing in the Arizona school systems.
Yeah.
You know, and what you've done. Tell us about that.
We've got the law changed so that kids, in order to graduate from high school, they have to have information about personal finance. But we're trying to take it to the next step and have an actual class. There's 23 states that are moving in that direction, but it's not soon enough because they're not actually doing it yet. And so in order to really give our children the opportunity for the future, we need to make sure they get the education they need. And so that's my entire career since December of 92 has been dedicated to providing information in many different formats so that people can find the information they need that suits them best. And that's why this is the way it is. It's different. It's different from anything I've ever done because it's entertaining. And you have an opportunity to see other women, their emotions. It talks about their feelings. It talks about things that they can do. And you might read one story and say, that's not me. But the next one you go, oh, that's me. I can do that. I can do that. And that's what I want people to find in this book. And every book I've written has been the same thing related to different topics. You know, Exit Rich was, you know, at the other end of the spectrum for successful business owners who want to build value in their business. So it was much more intellectual, but it gave you that the business plan to be able to have a successful business that was sustainable, scalable, and saleable. But this is your wallet. How to nurture your wallet and create a financial life that you deserve.
Okay, so besides not having credit in their name, what are some of the other big mistakes that women make financially?
Well, there's one woman in here who's a real estate agent, all right, and she escaped an abusive marriage with 2 children and completely had to start over and rebuild herself. Now, you may not be abusive. It might be a financial setback. It might be an illness. But how many of us have actually had to start over and figure out what we want to do or change our career midstream? And finding the resources to help us is really important. And so each one of these women have have emotional setbacks that they have to get through. And so you can find a something in this book that is what you're going through right now and help you find the path in the right direction.
It's so good, but it also helps you when you're trying to mentor a daughter, a granddaughter, somebody above you. So, so you can go find that story and give, and be able to give that advice. You and
I the intimidation out of it, Lisa, because right. we're afraid to talk about money because it's so personal. But with this book, you can talk about it in the frame of the individuals in the book. And so it makes it less intimidating.
Yeah, because you actually take us, each character takes us on her journey, and her journey to financial wellness. So you started way back when, with the whole Rich Dad, when you guys made games, you had, I think, and then for children, teaching children financial literacy through the games. Talk about that. It's got to start there.
Absolutely. Well, the whole Rich Dad organization started based on a game called Cash Flow. And we actually wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad as a marketing tool. And it took off so much that we ended up becoming a book company. We wrote 15 books in the 10 years I was there. And so that built the largest personal finance brand in the world. And when I left Rich Dad is when Napoleon Hill reached out to me in 2007, the foundation, wanting to reinvigorate his teachings during the economic crisis of 2007. So it was wonderful because I built the largest personal finance brand. I was asked to step into the world's largest personal development brand. It was awesome, an incredible opportunity. And then I worked with 2 presidents on the topic of financial literacy and serving on their advisory councils. But I've never stopped the one-on-one, the opportunity to really work with people where they are. Because the first step, most people don't even know where they are financially. Right. They're embarrassed, so they don't do it. They put their head in the sand. And
what is the first step?
That's right. That's right. And so with the first step is to figure out where you are. Even if the picture is bleak, you'll feel empowered because at least you know where to start. My dad used to say, map doesn't do you any good if you don't know where you are and where you want to go. Let's figure out where you are, and then let's put together the process to get to where you want. And I hate the word budget. It's negative, right? Use the word spending plan. We all like to spend money. So let's have a spending plan that helps you create a better financial picture.
And what are you saying to people today? Interest rates are high. Inflation is out of control. It looks bleak. It looks very bleak. And it's a
scary time, but when it's bleak and when it's scary is when opportunities are created. And so, we're not following the normal historical thing. When interest rates are high, typically real estate prices go down. Well, that's not happening. Real estate prices are still going up. There's no supply. There's a short supply. So all of these indicators are not behaving the way we would expect them to, which means there's a diversion. And that means that we have opportunities. So we're going to see some more foreclosures. People who got in a low interest rate that have adjustable rate mortgages are maybe not going to be able to afford the higher interest rate when it gets refinanced. And so there's opportunity there to either support them in staying in their home through financing or through the foreclosure process. And so we're going to start seeing that happen more and more. But at the end of the day, we've never seen a bigger increase in entrepreneurship. But the flip side of that, Lisa, is that we hit over $1 trillion in credit card debt in the United States in August, highest ever. Now, during COVID, we had the highest personal savings rate because we had to stay home. We couldn't spend money. So in just 2-3 short years, we went from really sound in our personal wealth to at risk, and it's scary.
So what are you accounting for that high personal or that high credit card debt? What do you think it's attributed to?
Well, part of it, I think, is the frustration from being at home. And so you be able to get out. And so people started having fun and using the credit card to do it. And because they had paid down their credit cards, they had all this free money, right? Free money is not so free. And plus inflation, what you just talked about, inflation, the cost of goods are so high. And so people are having to go into debt using and they have a personal crisis. They have a flat tire. They have to go into debt to get that repaired. Their car breaks down. And so I think it's really scary because middle and lower income America are the ones that are being squeezed the most by this gas prices, inflation, real estate prices. People that want to get into a home can't. And so for me, it's really scary. I think we really have to start looking at, the most successful businesses solve a problem and serve a need. We got a lot of problems and needs right now.
So what would you tell a 30-year-old couple, a 30-year-old woman who is, maybe going to get married for the first time and start her family? And, is there such a thing as a one-income family anymore, Sharon? Or do you think because of what's going on the planet and this disaster of an economic situation we're in, do you think that that's even possible? And do you condone that for women? I mean, do you, I know, people want, women sometimes want to stay home, but I don't even think it's possible, or even, start her own company. Like, what advice would you give a 30-year-old woman? And then I'm going to ask you for a 50-year-old woman.
Well, 30-year-old woman who wants to stay home and raise her children, you have the opportunity. It's never been easier to run a business from the home, because there's so many virtual businesses you can do. So is it possible? Yes, but your partner needs to be at a high enough level income that they can, cover both. The other thing, Lisa, is that there's 42% of households, the woman is the primary breadwinner.
Right.
That's a huge shift in our social mores, huge shift in the dynamics in the household, where we have a lot of men that are stay-at-home husbands.
That wouldn't happen at my house. I'm sorry.
No, mine either. But it's a mental shift, and it's really something that we have never seen before, and so it's continuing to grow. But yes, I have the opportunity to speak to a lot of couples, and some of them truly they choose to be in business together so that the woman has more free time, right, and so the woman can support the man from home and do the things and still be there for the children. So we're seeing a lot more of that type of dynamic.
Okay, then how about the woman who is, she's had her career job, she put in her 20 years or her 25 years, and now she's like, I've had enough. I want to retire. I want to go to my next phase in life, which I know real estate agents, that's a lot. The majority are women on their second career. But what would you say to her? Like, how do you prepare for that? Because nobody wants to stay in a job over 20 or 25 years. And there's a whole nother season of life. And so what advice would you give her to prepare for that next season so she could go out and really maybe do what she loves to do, or start a business, or whatever that looks like?
Well, the first of all is to remember that you have the choice. You can make any choice you want. And that 20 years that you spent in the workforce, did you save appropriately? Do you have a foundation? A lot of people go out there and they want to start a whole new life, but they have no savings. So they're at risk. They risk their future. And so look at what you're doing. Maybe before you quit your job, start that small business on the side so that it can start becoming in revenue, so that when you quit your job, you have something to support you. And if you're single, that's so important. Now, if you're married, you may have that opportunity because you've got income from your spouse. But each of those, we talk about that a lot in the book, related to understanding what your dynamics, what your needs are, and not putting yourself into financial stress. A recent survey, Lisa, had 87% of Americans are stressed out about money. And what's worse is, never in my career has this been so high. 82% of Gen Y and Gen Z stressed out about money. It's never been that high. And so I am frightened about the mental health, the financial situation for our young people.
And I think, so many of the young people I see, and I see them on social media, and I'm like, they're living large. Like, I didn't live like that when I was 30 years old. I didn't take 19 trips and go to destination weddings. And I mean, my God, it's like I was raising kids.
Right? And have $800 dinners. I mean, we go out to dinner and I look at these tables of these 20 somethings, and they're ordering, wine, food. I was like, where are you getting all this money?
Right. And the chances are, like, they probably have the money, but that means they're not saving the money or investing the money or putting it into something that cash flows. And, I love what you say, and I use it all the time. I do give you credit for it, but you don't have a business unless you solve a problem, serve a need. And so many people that want to be, I call them entrepreneurs, because they don't have a business. It's just a hobby that they pray and hope someday that maybe they can monetize, and you can't monetize a hobby, y'all. You just can't. And so everybody that comes to me and says, I want to do something in my next 30 years, like the song goes, or I want to do something on my side hustle. And I'm like, what problem do you solve? Right. And I think that one of the things that you have done so beautifully in this book is that you have solved the problem of talking to women from a generational standpoint, right? Like you're talking to all the generations here.
Yeah, there's 9 different women from the ages of 19 to 86. There's
it's never been done, Sharon.
Of life.
It's never been done. In every book I've ever read about finance, and I'm listening to a book right now on Audible called Babylon. Was it The Richest Man in Babylon? It's kind of a parable. I'm sure you've heard of it. Everyone's, oh, you got to listen to The Richest Man in Babylon. And I'm like, okay, I get it, kind of. But I'm like, on the book. Like, I don't feel like I'm walking away with any to-dos, with any, like I get it. I understand what it is to be the richest man in Babylon. I know what you have to do. Like, I already know all this. I've done a good job of doing it. This is like a manual for financial success. It is like, I mean, and it also is like, I'm literally buying this for anybody who's related to me on here, female friends, I'm buying this for everybody. I'm just going to buy one of the boxes of the books, because this is the best gift you could give somebody. And I don't have to read the entire book to get what I need. I can read the, let's see, about what's our little girl's name here? I'm drawing a blank here, just on one of our little girls here, but one of the stories.
Zoe is trying to go to college.
May, yeah. And Zoe. So I can go and I can read that. So I can read 25 pages or 30 pages and I can get everything I need, and I can get an action plan. Like that to me, Sharon, when I went through this book, like, I don't think that's ever been done. Has it ever been done in a book that you've written? And I love your books, but and so I think that's
I'm proud of all my books. This is my 28th, but I would say it's probably the most relative and easy to understand and actionable book that I've written, because it really is, it's the truth. It's really, it's the negative truth and positive truth, and how you can turn one into the other. And at the end of the day, if you're an employee, it's not what you do for your paycheck that determines your financial future. It's what you do with your paycheck. And I address that in this book as to how you can turn the dial just a little bit and make tomorrow better than today.
Oh, it's so important. And, everybody out there, like, share this with your kids that are in their 20s and 30s. Because to Sharon's point, I see so much of it on social media. And I look at the lives they're living, and I know they're outspending what they're bringing in. And how are they preparing for that future? It just, so many of these young people, I can't call them kids. They're not kids anymore. They're adults. But some of these young people I know personally, just, and I just think, God, like, somebody needs to just shake them and make them stop, because you can't go on that cycle forever. There will be a day of reckoning. And I feel like as a country, we're starting to see that day of reckoning right now.
Yeah, I think social media is part of the problem, because I call it loud money, right? So you want to be like run with the Joneses. And so you see it in the social media, and you think you have to go out and you've got to buy the stuff. All right. And I say, well, let's build or create the assets that generate income, and let those assets buy the stuff. So pay attention to what you're doing, because when you have an asset that's generating income for you, it isn't like an employee with no management issues. You've got the ability to have that asset generating income, and then you can live the lifestyle you want.
And there's lots of ways to create assets. It's not just real estate, y'all. It's IP. Sharon talks about that. Like, what is it that how do you sell your knowledge? And I've got to bring you back, and we need to do another one about creating assets that in turn create cash flow. And with that cash flow, you go to the $800 dinner, because we know that asset's going to generate it again next month and next month and next month, and maybe more and maybe more. And I think that is the critical piece, Sharon, that everybody, I don't care how old you are, they're missing. They're missing the fact that you need to create assets or invest in assets that create cash flow. And the cash flow is your free money. It's not free, but it's
you're
money.
financially free when the income from your assets exceeds your monthly expenses.
Yeah.
That means you don't have
and then you're rich.
Yes. And that financial freedom doesn't have to be millions of dollars. You know,
Right.
you might spend, $100,000 to live a year. When you've got assets generating $100,000, you're financially free.
Right.
And so anything you do as an employee is a bonus. And that's what I wish for everyone, is to pay attention to buying, building, and creating assets. Assets are sexy.
Assets are sexy. And that is when you can quit the day job and go out on your own, because your assets are supplying your living expenses. And then you can start taking some risks. Sharon, this has been absolutely amazing. I want everybody on here. I'm going to put up the link. The links. Give me that's not a bit.ly that I can put on a banner real quick. Is it?
Yeah, the bit.ly link is the quick one. Or you just go to my website, Sharon Lechter, and go to the store. SharonLechter.com, go to the store, and the book is there. So.
Yeah, and buy it through the store, y'all. Don't get it on Amazon, because if you buy it through Sharon, then you're going to get the book autographed, like my book is autographed, and that makes it even more of a treasure. But buy a box full. I think a box full's, I don't know, $100. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's like you can't afford not to buy it.
For the case quantity. Yeah,
it's a case. Yeah. So anyways, I'll be ordering my case. This is like top of my list to give away to people. You have to promise me that you'll come back. I assume book sales are great. All your book sales are good.
Yeah, we ran out of the first print run right away, so we had to go back, which is all good news. That's good.
Say, darn it, we hate it when that happens. Because this is an asset, right? Like you make money in your sleep. You created a book, you created IP, you created an asset that people will purchase even when you're sleeping. It's a beautiful thing. So y'all go get your book, How Money Works for Women. Let's give a big thank you to Sharon Lechter. Share this out. Huh?
I'm taking a picture.
Okay. I'm smiling. Share this out. I know a lot of you are going to catch this on the replay, because hopefully most of you are gainfully employed during the afternoon, but Sharon's a busy lady, so trying to get her on. I'm so grateful that she came. And share this out, tag a friend, buy some books, help your sisters, your mothers, your friends, build a better future. Sharon, thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa.
I love you.
Your friend. Thank you. And thank you all for listening to us. And I really do believe this book has is a gold mine for people.
Well, all kinds of people here are saying, love it, ordering it. So hopefully we're going to change a few lives today. So that's always the goal.
That's my goal. Thanks.
Bye-bye, everybody.